Welcome everyone to Alphana's first ever Insider Live. We're really excited about this. I've been meaning to do this for such a long time, but going forward every week, one of the things we're going to do is really kind of help provide a lot more insights, tips and tricks, really try to get you using Alphana to its maximum potential, helping you to either create content, extract insights from videos and from audio or podcasts or anything of that nature. But we really want this to just help everyone to be able to really maximize their efforts and maximize their workflows and what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. So a couple things that we have planned. 100% we're going to go into live demo. I'm going to show you things real and happening live. I think we'll show a couple tips and tricks. And one of the main things that we'll focus on today is really on personalizing content that is being generated. I hear so much from everyone about needing to understand a little bit more of how to get it to either write the way that they want it, how to find the actual insights they want, or how to take their workflows and to be able to replicate that inside of Alphana so that they don't have to do it multiple times and have to repeat a lot of steps that they have to do in the past. And so we're going to dive a lot deeper into personalization, and we'll together work on creating an example template so that you guys can see what that looks like and to see the power behind it. After that, we'll go through Q&A if anybody has any questions, and I'll give you a little bit of insight into some of the things that we've been working on and new roadmap items that are coming out over the next couple of weeks, which should be pretty exciting. Again, like I said, Q&A, and from there we will wrap it up, and we'll be sure to send out the recording to everyone once we make edits and clean things up, and we'll put together a recap. So before we get started, what I'd love for everybody who's on the call right now, if you could please maybe just either drop in the chat, if you can, just kind of a little bit about, like your name and, where you're calling from or where you're listening from. I think that'd be very helpful. And if you want to put a little bit about who you are, that'd be very helpful as well. But please go ahead and drop that into the chat. So the first thing we're going to start off on, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll dive a little bit more into content personalization. So we won't go into full demo of how to create everything in Alphana. We're going to really focus. So, but the first thing we'll do is kind of high level, right? We've got my dashboard. I have many projects that I've loaded in here. Obviously, I'm a big user. I also have multiple accounts. So I've got almost 400 here as an example. The first thing that, if you're a first-time person using Alphana, or maybe you've just never done this before, the first thing I recommend to everyone is to go in and set up your global instructions or your custom instructions. This part is so important because if you start creating projects without editing what your custom instructions are, the output is going to come out a little bit more generic. It may not come out in your voice. It may not have things that you're used to. And so you want to be able to edit this information before you even go in and create a project. And so anybody who starts off, you always have an example sample project inside. I'm just going to click this demo project that I created so I can show you guys how to do this. In order to edit your custom instructions for right now, you click into a project, and I want you to come up here to the top right. In the top right, there's this 3-dot menu. And this opens up a menu here where you can now select custom instructions. Once you click on custom instructions, this is where you can actually edit and personalize what you want the AI to either remember about you or to understand of like how to write content in your tone, in your voice, what words to avoid. You could fill this with as much context as you need in order to make sure that Alphana actually generates the content that you want. And so I'm going to give you an example of some of the custom instructions that I have in mind, and then I'll show you how you can actually come up with custom instructions pretty quickly for yourself. So here's an example of what I have in mind, right? I favor everyday language. So I always tell it to write in everyday language, try to make things more relatable, more genuine. Typically I don't have it in here, but, typically I want everything written at a 6th grade reading level. And so I'm going to put in here like write at a 6th grade reading level. And the reason I say that, and this is important for content that you're writing, is that you want your content to be fully accessible to anybody out there, and the more relatable it is, right? Not everybody wants to read in content at a PhD level, right? It doesn't matter how smart the audience is. And so this helps to have more accessibility. But your custom instructions is also going to gear towards who your audience is. So if you're writing something that's going to be presented in front of PhDs or doctors, or maybe it's a select group of people, then you might want to tailor your writing to make sure that you fit that audience. And these are the instructions that you put in here so that you could tell Alphana how you want your content written. The other thing I do in my example is that sometimes when I say Alphana, it actually spells it Alphana with an F. And obviously it's spelled with Alphana, right? It kind of stems from the word alpha with the NA at the end. And so I have to tell it, like, anytime you hear a video that says Alphana, I want you to spell it as Alphana with a PH, right? So this part's extremely important. You might have a scenario where maybe it's about your company name, or maybe your name, or other words that it typically misspells. Maybe you have conference calls and there's typical words that are being in there. This is a great place to put some of those keywords in there of the ones that you want it to spell correctly. In this example, I want it to avoid a couple words like delve or any jargon, right? So this is just a basic example. The other thing that I have in my custom instructions as an example are a couple of my favorite hooks. So anytime that if I create content in Alphana, I want it to pull from these hooks that I have in here as examples. And so you'll see that I told it, use these examples or create similar hooks for content when I mention to use a hook in any of my writing. Fill in the blanks or brackets based on the content. Randomly choose or invent a fitting hook based on the content. And you'll see here, I put my example hooks, like why I use blank and you should too, right? That's just a basic one. Or like harsh truth about, and then a topic. And so what this will do is, depending on the topic of the video that you're writing or the instructions that you have in the AI cards, it'll automatically pull that topic, but use this hook as the intro for that's being written. Now, I don't know how everyone understands. This isn't, this lesson isn't going to be fully about hooks, but just a quick tidbit, because I've had questions before. Hooks are essentially the first, few seconds of what people hear in a video, or maybe the first line you see in a social media post or inside of a blog post. That's what really calls the person to see if they want to continue reading or not. You want that first line to hook the person in, and it's got to be really catchy, really short, and it has to really kind of touch on points that people are desire, right? In this case. And so hooks are extremely important. You can have the best content in the world that you generate content from, but if you don't have a good hook, no one's going to watch the content, because they usually don't make it past that first hook, right? And so that's why it's extremely important here, and that's why I like to have a series of hooks, and oftentimes I'll switch them out if I find better ones, but very easy to copy and paste. Once you set up your custom instructions, obviously you want to make sure it's enabled, and then you can go ahead and click save. So now I have my custom instructions in here. I think the key question that I imagine and a lot of people have is, number one, they didn't know you can set up custom instructions. It's kind of hidden in the project. You got to go to the project to edit it. But what's really important is that these instructions here apply to any new project you create afterwards. So for example, if once you set these up and you create 100 videos, it'll now use these custom instructions, right? So it's a very powerful tool. These are instructions you don't have to repeat every single time that you want to create content. So now what I'm going to do is actually show you how you could use ChatGPT to draft what your custom instruction should look like. Now, this works great if you already use ChatGPT every day. ChatGPT learns based on your interactions on a daily basis. So it already has a record of understanding a little bit about how you like things written, the questions you ask, a couple things that are very personal about you. that might be a great fit to put into the global instructions. The way I see it, it's actually really important that you can use ChatGPT in order to generate it. And if you don't use ChatGPT, that's okay. You could still use it to draft your own set of custom instructions. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up here. Awesome. So I have a prompt that I created, which I actually used ChatGPT to help me create, and I'll send this to everyone on this call so you have access to it. And I'm going to go ahead and add it here. All right, so let's read this together before I go ahead and hit generate. So one, you're going to give ChatGPT context of Alphana in case you haven't talked to ChatGPT about Alphana before. So in this case, I use Alphana, an AI content manager that automates content creation. And I'll put in here from any video or audio. Generate a concise set of custom instructions to ensure all content matches my style and adapts to my audience, right? Limit to 4 sections. Now I do this because just ask ChatGPT to generate custom instructions. It will give you a really long draft. I would prefer, and you may too, to have something a little bit more concise, but you can always tailor it and make it longer if you feel like it's not giving you the results that you're trying to yield. So in this case, I'm asking it to limit it to 4 sections, max 25 words per section. The first one is the output language, right? The language that the content should be written in. So if you are trying to write your content in Spanish, in German, or English, or whatever it is, let's make sure in the custom instructions, you tell Alphana what language you want the content to be written in. And that's extremely important. The second piece is your tone and style, right? How should the content sound, right? So once it's written, how should that sound? And let's put details in there of what the tone and style should look like. The third one, I recommend everyone does this, but you can leave it out. It just depends on your output that you're trying to achieve, is who's your target audience, right? Who's the content for? When somebody reads the content that you generate from Alphana, whether it's for a LinkedIn post, a blog post, or if you're drafting a summary, who should it be written for and how should it adapt for that audience? And I'll show you examples of this, but I'll give you an example. You might see an awesome marketing video for business owners, but your clientele might be, moms who live in Miami. I'm just making up an example. A completely different, but maybe the insights from that video are super relevant. So if you put your target audience in here, you can grab that type of content and it'll now rewrite it for the audience that you're trying to achieve. So that's why I say add this in here, because this opens up the opportunities for the kinds of videos that you can put inside of Alphana. The next piece that you want it to help you come up with is the brand voice. So for example, you already have tone and style, but here it could be like, all right, what are some specific choices that you typically like to use or want to use? And also, just in general, do's and don'ts, right? Do use XYZ words, do this, but do not use and fill in the blank here, right? And so anything that makes it extremely clear of how you want your content written is what's going to be important for this. And the last piece is keeping it short, structured, and practical. No fluff, no AI jargon, no unnecessary details. This part's important so that the custom instructions it gives you reflects this. Now, really quick, if I could just gauge how many of you on this call actually use ChatGPT, either once, enough times that it has some insights on you. If you could just drop in the chat, you could just say yes, or I use ChatGPT. And if you don't, you could tell me what you don't use, what you do use. Go ahead and drop that in the chat. All right, once in a while, Christopher, thank you. So over here, now I've got my prompt. And as I mentioned earlier, ChatGPT already knows a lot about me. So when I hit send, it's going to base this off of my previous conversations with ChatGPT. It may not get it perfect the first time, but it's going to give you you could take and tweak before you put it back into Alphana. So I'm going to go ahead and hit submit, and let's see what this comes up with. All right. It caught something that I was doing for a specific project, so that's interesting. So now this gave me a set of custom instructions. And so we're going to start here with output language. In my case, it says clear, concise English. Avoid complex words or industry jargon. Keep it at an 8th grade reading level for accessibility. And I sometimes switch between 6th and 8th grade, but that range is usually I do. So this is pretty good, right? This is and for it to sound. Now for the tone and style, casual, direct, and engaging, short sentences, no fluff, and make it easy to skim and action-oriented when relevant. This is all because this is what I've told ChatGPT in the past in different ways, right? And different things that I've written, different prompts, anything like that, I've asked it to do some of these things. Target audience, this was for a specific project, so I guess that went into my memory. This was when I was trying to target music creators and that industry for something very specific, but great, it pulled it in. I can easily tweak this to whoever target audience is, just like you can. The content should feel practical, valuable, and tailored to their needs, helping them to grow, monetize, and streamline workflows. So this, but for you, this might look a little bit differently, right? Now for brand voice, now it took some specifics that I've said in the past. I like to use the word turn instead of transform, no AI cliches, like the words unleash or harness. I wanted to stay away from that. Prefer we over I. I feel it's more inclusive, so I have told it that before. And I like to keep it natural and over-explaining, right? Avoiding to over-explain. So this is a great pair of instructions, and I should actually update my instructions because it's much better than what I have. For now, I'm just going to throw it in here. So you'll see that I actually just took my custom instructions that I pulled from ChatGPT and I copied and pasted it right in here to fit with the other instructions that I already had. And I'll go ahead and click save. So I recommend everyone who's on this live stream or who watches this recording, the first thing you should do, open up Alphana, open up a project, click here on this 3-dot menu, click on custom instructions, and I want you to fill this out. I'll give you this prompt and I'll make sure I send this out to everyone after this call. And this prompt will allow you to just put this into ChatGPT. And if you don't want to put it into ChatGPT, or maybe this gives you a template. Now you can tell it like, hey, my target audience is our video creators, right? And instead of 8th grade reading level, please make it 6th grade, right? That's just an example. And so I'll send that. It gives you the revised output. Once you're done and you feel comfortable with it, go ahead and put that into Alphana. And here we go. Perfect. I'm dropping in the chat this prompt. I will send it out after, but if you guys want to go ahead and please go ahead and grab it, you can save that. Let's see. So now that we have this, I'm going to say this. So in my custom instructions, I have it targeting right now music creators, right? That's what it says there. So I'm going to give this a test live with you. And for now, I think what I'll do is just create one and say, can you write key takeaways about this video for my target audience? Geared. So if everything works out well, this should actually tailor the content based on my target audience, right? And we'll give it a shot just to make sure it's taking our instructions properly. So here it took away, put together key takeaways. But one thing I am noticing, it did not go with my target audience. This is why demos are a beautiful thing. We get to catch things in live. So one of the things I always recommend, and we can tweak prompts even more, but the regenerate button always helps to really, here we go. Unfortunately, this happens with AI. This isn't just an Alphana thing, although we are working on solutions to try to get it right the first time. Sometimes the first output isn't the greatest. And this happens with, even in ChatGPT. Second time. This is why we have the regenerate button. So if you'll see, the first time that I created this piece of content, it ignored my custom instructions, right? And we'll eventually get that even better. But without doing anything, the only thing I did was click regenerate, and I accepted it, and I went ahead and regenerated it. And you'll see that it actually took my prompt, and based on my custom instructions, because in there I put music creators, it now tailored the entire key takeaways, but now targeting towards music creators. And it breaks it down here. So this is just, again, one use case of how to leverage it. So if it doesn't write it in your style, it doesn't take the instructions you had in there, just go ahead and click regenerate. And then you'll be able to judge the outputs to make sure that it's working the way that you intended it to be. Now, if you've got any questions, please drop them in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and delete this quickly while I do that. Awesome. So that's that example. Again, that's super important. Things like language or is editing the transcript. So I'm going to go ahead and click create. And this part's important. I've been seeing people skip this part, but if you do this first, it's going to help you. So first you set up your custom instructions. Next, when you upload a video, which I'm going to use YouTube in this example, and I'm going to start importing. So one, we're going to import the video, and then we're going to go through the transcription process. And I'm just showing you an example of how this looks like here. Actually, I should have uploaded this earlier, but I'm going to let this run. What you want to do when you upload a video is you want to be able to edit the transcript to update the speaker names. This part's important if you have multiple speakers in the video, or if you're the speaker, to avoid that when content's being generated, it doesn't say things like speaker one said XYZ, right? Perhaps you want it to be your name. Like, you know, it's Christopher or Sylvester or Ty or Ace, right? You want names to be reflected inside from the transcript. And so in this case, what I did was I uploaded a YouTube video, right? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a template. I'm going to do the quotes and sound bites from the content and give it to you. So it makes it easier for you to kind of skim and find what you need. Now, when I click next on this step, this is where you have an opportunity to be able to edit the transcript before you generate all the content. Now, it's important because if you generate 10 pieces of content and then you edit the transcript afterwards, you have to regenerate all that content. But if you edit it beforehand, like I'm doing now, I'm going to click generate. Before it generates all the content, it'll give you an opportunity to be able to edit the transcript. So right now the video is importing, it's transcribing. We're going to let that run in the background. And while that's running, I'll show you an example of editing the transcript just in that step. So what I'm doing now, I click on transcript. Here's the transcript from this video. I already pre-filled this, but you'll see if you click on the icons above, this is where it lets you see the name. So in this case, Mr. Beast. Let's say this is incorrect. I'll put a space. I'll press enter. And that'll automatically update Mr. Beast throughout the entire conversation. So here it is. It added the space now between it. And in this case, maybe you don't want to say the person's last name, maybe, or perhaps it's John as an example. So this is how you want to be able to edit your speakers. Obviously, you'll do it in the create step. I'm letting that run in the background, because now when I generate content, Alphana and our AI will automatically know, who Mr. Beast is and who John is, and what allows you to put any prompt that you want, right? So in this case, what I'm going to say is, can you find? Actually, I have a better prompt for this. All right. Can you find clips and timestamps explaining how, let's see, Mr. Beast, let's see, comes up with new videos. So in this case, because I updated the speaker names, now it knows who Mr. Beast is versus John, and it could reference that, and it could search video to come up with that piece. In this case, what it's going to do, it's going to find the clips and timestamps. So we'll give that just a sec. Here we go. Here are the clips with Mr. Beast explaining how he comes up with new videos. Let's see. In this case, they come up with ideas because they don't upload videos often. They have countless ideas. They're sitting for a long time. And sometimes it takes years before they can film them. Like their Antarctica video, which took 3 years to make happen. Yeah, Mr. Beast is incredible for taking a couple years to create these videos. And they always get 100 million views per video, which is insane. But you'll see here, it actually came up with the clip and the snippet from the video about what I asked for. So if you're trying to get specific information out of it, you can use this card. Now, what if you actually want the clips where he's saying that? So what I should have done is not create your own. If I come up here to add card, the clips from timestamps card is a really powerful card. Because here, if I say, can you find clips and timestamps explaining how Mr. Beast comes up with this? And in this case, I'll say vertical because I want the clips to come out in a vertical format. It's going to focus on those clips specifically, but this time, instead of just generating the transcript with the timestamp, it'll actually get the clips for you. So let me see, I'll collapse this. So while this generates, what's great about this feature here is if you did an interview or you did a podcast, or potentially, let's say if you're and you had a coaching call with one of your clients or a group session. And so now, of course, you've got 2 speakers in those sessions, but you want to find all the clips where maybe you were talking about a certain piece or a topic because you want to use that video to post on social media, or you want to create a snippet that you could send out to your client, or something, or a quote. Maybe somebody said something positive about your company or a testimonial, and you want to find a testimonial. Instead of just allowing Alphana to come up with 10 different clips from your video, you can narrow its focus on the types of clips that you want to find. And so here you'll see as an example, right? This is talking about how he comes up with videos and his brainstorming tools, right? And so we can now watch the video instead of just the timestamp from the video. And what's great is it gives you that title and it gives you a description. So again, instead of it randomly finding clips, in this case, it's actually really focused on how he comes up with the ideas and getting the videos. Now, this is a future roadmap item, which I'll talk about later, but these thumbnail previews, although they look the same, they're not. They each have a different timestamp. So I say that out loud just in case that may confuse you. They are different clips. So that's how you could personalize the content. You edit the transcript so it knows who the speakers are, and it allows you to do powerful things like finding video clips based on what someone said, finding different topics and only getting content based on that. And that applies to anything. Maybe you want a LinkedIn post that only talks about brainstorming, and so you could tailor the content in that way. So I'm showing you here because we were waiting for it to load and I just remembered about it. Once you create your video, this is how you can edit it before you generate the project. So I show you this because you'll see in this video, there's actually 3 speakers. And so I'll go ahead and update this one. Potentially that's Gary V. And you'll see Gary V just got updated all the way throughout for anyone that was speaker 1. And so this is great. You can update speaker 1, speaker 2, that's fine. The other thing that you could do to personalize, for example, you do a podcast or it's an audio recording and maybe there's like a 30-second ad somewhere. And obviously you don't want the ad to come up as context for the AI to generate content. And so again, this is all about personalization. You want the content to come out the way that you want it to be. So take this step and go ahead and pretend this part was an ad and you can go ahead and just delete it, right? Go ahead and delete that from the transcript. And I can do that here as well. I can select over here. This little menu appears. Either copy timestamp, copy text, or in this case, delete. I'm going to delete it because you want to make sure the AI is not using that, right? Sometimes there's an ad talking about a certain tool or a certain strategy, but that has nothing to do with the video. And, you know, the AI is not perfect at determining which part is an ad or not. So if you eliminate it, it just makes the end output so much better. What's great here as well is you can also, you know, edit each word. So I can customize and be like, you know, this, I just wanted to say convos for whatever reason. So I edit that word. Once you feel comfortable and you've made all the edits that you needed to the transcript, including the speakers, words, or anything like that, you can go ahead and hit generate. And now it's going to be generated clean with the content and context that it had. And so in this case, I created the one version with sound bites, quotes, and summaries. And essentially what it's doing is it's finding, you know, keywords or sound bites that's being said that might be notable and interesting for people to hear or read or see. And it'll automatically produce that here, including the sound bites. And by the way, this is great if you're trying to, you want to find a good quote from your videos, right? Here's a couple potential quotes, which you can then throw onto like on Canvas and create an image for it, or their social post. You know, quoting Gary V, he loves being an operator, right? So this just gives you that example. And after a minute, this will actually generate sound bites of it, you know, 10, 15-second snippets that you can use and extract. I'm going to take a minute there. Any questions? Does anybody have any questions, any thoughts, any feedback or anything that you'd like to see? Please go ahead, drop it into the chat. Awesome. Meanwhile, now with the personalization, I think one quick thing I'll do, which might be helpful, I'm going to go ahead and, you know, I have this template. Now, we have a whole library of templates inside of Alphana. And I'm sure, you know, you've probably seen a couple of these, right? Summarizing, marketing, YouTube content, into social media clips. You know, I've got a webinar content workflow. We just have several templates that you could choose from. But these are just starting points, right? The beauty about Alphana is that you could actually create your own, right? Because what may work for you may not work for someone else. Or for example, you know, this YouTube content workflow, it's great. It generates a ton of content like shorts, AI images. It gives you chapters, you title ideas. It takes screenshots. It creates a newsletter. But perhaps you don't need all of this, right? So if you don't need all of this content, or for example, anytime you create a video, you just want 2 or 3 pieces of content generated from it, I really encourage you to go ahead and turn that into a template. Let's customize it, make it the way you want it, turn it into a template. That way, every time you use Alphana, it always comes out the way that you want it, not he suggested it, right? If it doesn't work for your use case. So what I'm going to do is come over here. I'm going to delete these cards. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and create a live stream template with you guys. Okay. We'll try to do it pretty quickly. Now, for a live stream, let's pretend this recording that I'm doing right now, and I'm meeting with everyone. I want to be able to turn this into, get a summary from it, get a couple YouTube shorts, maybe generate a blog post that I could put on our website. I want to generate a newsletter with a recap that I can send out to my audience, and maybe a LinkedIn post to post a link with the key takeaways from the video. And so how are we going to do that? First step is I'm going to go ahead and click Add Card. And perhaps here I want to start and I want to get a summary. Now we've got our summary, and I think I have, perfect. I'm going to go ahead and click on Summary. And this is going to generate a high-level summary that I can use to post. Let's say if I upload this video on YouTube, for example, I can go ahead and post it there. All right. So now here's a high-level summary about what's happening with Mr. Beast. Let's say, aside from that, I'm going to go ahead and create maybe a newsletter. And here we go. So the newsletter, beauty of that is it'll kind of summarize the newsletter. Let's see what that looks like here. And just, again, I'm trying to do a live stream template. So when I upload a live stream, this is the content that's going to get created each time. So here we go. This is generating. We put brackets. So if you do have a podcast name, you can put here. So in this example, I could say, weekly Alphana Live, weekly digest. Welcome to this edition of the newsletter. Dive into the latest insights. And here you'll see this was a Mr. Beast episode. It automatically put together the episode. It talks about what Mr. Beast shared, the art of content over clickbait, behind the scenes, and it gives you a section about upcoming content. So like stay tuned for the next episode, join our community, subscribe. It's got a good call to action, and then listen now, follow us on social media. See you next week. So this is a good high level way of, putting together a newsletter. If you have a different format, you could work in here and edit the prompt, right? You don't have to use you can click edit and you could customize this. This is very generic. And you could just bullet point as short or as long as you want, how you want the structure for your newsletter to be, and go ahead and edit that in here. And so that'll help you to be able to tailor it the way you want it. Not only that, but if you always know that you have your social media links or a way you like to end the newsletter, there's two things you could do. One, you could put it in here and be like, here, and here's my Twitter, right? And you could put those URLs in there as call to action, so it uses it every time it creates the output. So you could save that within the prompt. But you could also add this to your custom instructions, right? And so, here's my LinkedIn and Twitter URLs, right? It uses that each time that I reference Twitter or LinkedIn, right? You just want to give it knowledge. If you always put a website URL, if you always put a name, just go ahead and put into your custom instructions. And so now I've got my summary. I've got a newsletter. I don't know if you saw what I just did there. I just drag and drop because I want my workflow to have summary first and then a newsletter. The next one I'll do perhaps is maybe I want to get out. And the one that I like to use, I have a video recap. This is great. So we're going to create a blog post that recaps the takeaways from the video, but into a blog format, right? And so I'm going ahead and I'm creating that here. Here we go. The art of storytelling, a behind the scenes look with Mr. Beast. Now remember, this is going to be tailored towards your content or video or YouTube. And so you'll see here, it gives you the headers and drafts an entire blog post live just for you. And in this example, if I click edit in the prompt, again, we provide you and show you how this was crafted. And you'll see this one's even longer. Look at the instructions on this one and how we want it structured. So what's great about this is if you like the blog as is, you could come in here and read each bullet and tweak the parts that you want and don't want in order for the blog post to structure the way that you want it to be. So again, it's really about personalizing the experience to make sure that you can edit this content. And so that's my blog post. I'm going to go ahead now and add, what I need to do is I want to post this on LinkedIn as well. Like, let's promote the video. And we have different types of LinkedIn. In this case, the one that I want to use is the video highlights LinkedIn post. I like to structure that one. And perhaps you do too. So we'll see what this looks like. We have different variations of LinkedIn posts. Now, what's great with this LinkedIn post, again, it's structured with a hook and should be structured with the way that resonates well on LinkedIn in this example. And here we go. They spend 60% of production time on just the first of each video. That's actually a pretty insane hook and stat. Mr. Beast's team focuses heavily on engaging viewers right from the start to keep them watching longer. This commitment to opening to the opening has significantly boosted the retention rate of viewers, making each video more successful. And then you'll see here it talks about like A/B testing and the result. A real life example from 0 to 1 million. So again, it organizes it in a very nice structure that can be posted for long form LinkedIn posts, which works well for the algorithms, especially if you have a good hook, because if people spend more time on the post, then LinkedIn will share that post with more people and you get more likes, more engagement, right? This all has a good trickle effect. So in this example, I just created a project with a summary. I generated a newsletter. I created a blog post and a LinkedIn post. So I want that every single time I create an episode, I want these 4 items to be created. And I could come up here, click on the 3-dot menu and click Save as Template. And I'm going to call this Sebastian's live stream workflow. You can ignore this for now. And I'm going to go ahead and click Save. So now that I'm customizing what this looks like, if I click Create, here it is, Sebastian's live stream workflow. And this will work for you as well. You create your workflow, you name it, whatever it is you want. And now for the next 100 videos that you do, or every week, you don't have to recreate this template. You already spent your time on it. All you have to do is add your video, whether a YouTube URL, or if you upload a video directly. Once you upload it, you select your template that you created, and now you could this content exactly as is. And it removes all the fluff. You don't have 20 different pieces of content. You just have the 4 or 3 or 5 that you really want to create every single time. All right, I am going to pause for a moment and let's open up for Q&A. I'm going to look in the chat now and see if anybody has any questions. All right, so Ace, you had a good suggestion in here. Some case studies in the future of how people are using Alphana and maybe some custom cards that people are using. That's a great idea. I think, so in the example I just showed right now, right, that's my example. So of one workflow is I record a video. Now I'm doing this one every single week. I want to make sure that inside of Alphana that we can replicate that, right? I want to generate the summary, the newsletter, and a blog post so we could post that online. Other use cases that I see very interesting is to be able to take a video. So for example, let's say you have a YouTube video and it talks about a few topics that you're like, wow, this is actually the similar topics that my audience would really benefit from, or your customers might benefit from. And they'll put it into Alphana to put together and create a structure, outline, and agenda for an episode that you can create based on that, but you could put your own flair to it. And so, you could leverage content that exists out there and from there be able to create something new, but with your own touch to it, right? And it helps you quickly be able to generate that content, right? This is just, an example use case. Another use case is, hey, take a call. I don't know if anybody in here does sales or if you're a founder or you meet with clients, take your client calls. drop them into Alphana. And actually, this is a template we're going to release soon. I'm using it for myself. Like, I'll take a call, put it in there, and I'll be like, all right, what were some of the objections the customer had? And it'll automatically bring it out. How did I do to those customer objections? How can I improve the way that I handled those questions from my customers, right? And you could set up that template of like, here are the top 3-5 things that I want to know to coach me on how I'm doing on my conversations and to coach me on what my customers are saying. And you could just drop those recordings directly in Alphana and generate it for you. And so we'll put together more examples, but these are example use cases that aren't just marketing and content creation, right? It's got a lot of valuable spaces to use. Any other questions from anyone?
Can we ask with the mic?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm just curious about connecting the cards to one another to create content in a more sequenced and nuanced way. I found in using AI, oftentimes when you create something and then you're trying to create additional, sort of in related to whatever it is that you've just created, our AI can sometimes deviate without that specific instruction to be able to rely on what was just previously created. So I'm just curious if that's something that you've been thinking about or if that's possible with the cards already. So like with your takeaways, making sure that the subsequent content is specifically related to those takeaways. So thank you. And thank you for such an incredible tool.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate it. And thank you so much for the question. That's actually a great question. So 2 things. One, we don't have that capability, but we've thought about this greatly because it's even something that I find myself needing, and I talk to a lot of people, and this would help to really be able to get better quality or different outputs the first time. And so it's on our roadmap. It's something that the idea of this is really chaining cards together so that you can have one card. Once that's done with the output, the next card will that output to generate something, and potentially you could do 5 or 10 of these chains all together before you get to your final output of the content. Right. And perhaps what I'll do is in another call, we'll dive a little bit deeper into it, but I'll show you maybe a workaround that you do for now, before that comes out. But just for everyone else, you can understand, and please jump in if this isn't what you're saying, but I just generated this summary, and what you'd like to do is be able to say, hey, this newsletter, right? Once this summary is generated, or maybe this is key takeaways, then from these key takeaways, generate this newsletter, right? So you'll essentially connect this card to this card, and potentially you can connect it to this card. And they would automatically generate in a sequence based on the other card's context. That makes sense? So I'll show you an example. For example, we have a card called Blog Ideas. I do this, and I've been trying to teach some people to do this, and maybe we can dive deeper into another call, but this is one example workaround. Comes up with a few, let's see. So let's say we got a couple of blog ideas here, which is great if you're trying to come up with ideas. And by the way, this works for LinkedIn ideas, just video ideas, course ideas. If you're trying to create a course, it doesn't have to be blog posts. I like this hook and this blog post, right? Eventually we'll automate it so you can actually have it do this automatically, but I can create another card after this and be like, please write a catchy or just a blog post about this, right? And now you could paste the title like $1 versus 100, how to use power of comparison to engage audiences and what to dive into, and create a blog post specifically the way you want it. A bit manual versus what you're looking for, but we do have it on the roadmap to do this automatically. But for now, a lot of people don't know that you can actually at least do this inside of Alphana. You don't have to like grab the transcript and then go to another tool to be able to do this, right? And now it's giving me a blog post based on
Thank you. I hadn't thought of
something
that.
I had. Great. Awesome. So that'll be helpful for you then? But it's
Yeah,
actually
for
a pretty
sure.
good
I
one.
hadn't thought of that. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anytime. And I see there's another question in there. Is it so we can use anyone's video and just revamp it? Um, yeah, so there's a great question. It came from Christopher. And if I understand it correctly, yes, you could take any video that you see and repurpose or revamp it. Now, what I say is, for example, and we try to do this in some of the prompts. Let's say you grab somebody else's video and you're using it on YouTube, right? Like in the example I have with Mr. Beast. If I'm going to put together and write a LinkedIn post or a blog post about it, the right thing to do, and I suggest, is like, hey, like, and you could even turn this into content. Like, hey, I just watched Mr. Beast's video, and I have 5 takeaways of how he gets 200 million views. And then you break down the and you kind of find a way to leverage the authority of whatever content that you're finding online as part of your brand and referencing it as well. Because a lot of creators out there, I mean, it's about attribution. You're not stealing it. You're actually recapping it. You're taking those takeaways and you're leveraging it and telling the world about it, right? And so, these are opportunities for you to do that. The same with a course. Like, hey, I just saw this awesome video. They broke down XYZ, and I decided that I wanted to teach you all how to do this, but with my special hack. And so it's okay to somehow figure out a way to, use this content, leverage the insights, just like as if you watched the video yourself, you learned something new and you're going to teach someone else. And, just reference back to them, right? Give them attribution. Like, this is the video I watched. Or if you want to watch the full video, go ahead and watch it. But you can go ahead and now teach someone else about it or write a post about it and share that with your audience. So hopefully that, so you help them. Well, yeah, that's right. So just key things. I know we're short on time. If anybody has to go, don't worry. We'll send out the recording. But I want to make sure I can cover some of this because we promised we would share some updates. So I want to talk a little bit about roadmap and some new features that are coming up. So, we talked about chaining cards. That's something more future forward. This is definitely something we will have in the future. A big thing that we're working on right now has been the way that you manage the clips that are generated from projects. And so, as I showed you, you could generate YouTube shorts, you could generate clips, you can extract clips from a video. But if you create 10 different projects and each of those projects generated 5 or 10 different clips, you had to go to project to find those clips, right? So one of the things that we're working on is a new clips manager. And essentially you're going to have a new tab in the sidebar that now aggregates all the clips that you've generated into one place and in one view, no matter what project they were made in. And you'll easily be able to see the ones that you've already downloaded versus the ones that you haven't downloaded. So if you put in like 10 different projects and you came back 2 days later and you're like, okay, I need a clip that I could share on social media, you don't have to go finding it in each project. You can now just watch clip by clip until you find the one that you want. You can set up the settings and download it, and now you have access to it. So we're going to make the way that you manage and see those clips a lot better, and also generating unique screenshots from each video that was generated. Because like I showed you earlier today, each video shows you the same exact screenshot for now. Now what we're going to be doing is with every video, you'll see a unique screenshot, which will be much easier for you to see the differences between the videos. And we're doing more things to it, like, for example, the ability to be able to bulk delete clips. So you probably generated 100 and you're like, all right, I just need, let me delete these 20. And you'll be able to just select them easily, be able to delete, and you'll be able to download more than one at a time. And so we're making a lot of improvements there. That's coming up very soon. I would say within the next 2 weeks at the most, we should have that out for you guys to try. The second piece that we're wrapping up, which will be coming out next month as well, are going to be webhooks. Now, some people may not know what webhooks are. Maybe some of you do, but it's a really powerful way for you to be able to get content out of Alphana. So what do I mean by that? With webhooks, if anybody uses anything like Zapier or make.com or any one of those tools, you'll be able to configure a workflow and say, okay, every time I create a project, like earlier I showed you, I had a summary, I had a newsletter, and I had a blog post. You could say, okay, I want the newsletter. I want you to send it and put it into a Google Doc, or maybe send it out to my email list and you connect, MailChimp or something to it. The blog post, I want to connect it to my WordPress website, and so that it automatically posts the blog post to my website, or LinkedIn, if there's a connection inside of like, make.com or here that connects to LinkedIn, you could say, hey, every time the LinkedIn post is generated, go ahead and post that to my LinkedIn page. So I'm giving you just examples, but there's probably 1,000 different things that you can do just by having webhooks. And so we'll record a whole video in a session on to show you how to use it and some ideas of how you can use it as well. But essentially, it's like after the content's generated in Alphana, we want to automatically put it in places that you need it so that it's not just living in Alphana, it actually goes out to where you want those to be. So those are just two really big things that we've been working on over the last 2 months. They're big changes. And so over the next few weeks, we'll be releasing those. If anybody's interested in trying it out, like for example, webhooks, we might be looking for a couple power users who's willing to test it out and try it out in their own workflows. Please go ahead and drop a note in the chat or just reach out to me directly, just in the chat window of Alphana, and I'll add you to the list so we can get you in there. All right. Any other questions or comments? Maybe you can add in the comments, was this useful? Is there anything cool that you want to try? Like what's the number one thing that you might, you took away from this conversation? Thank you, Ace. Yes, definitely. We're working every day on this, so I appreciate that. And we're going to be a lot better about communication as well. So every week we have an event, you'll have updates, try to get in every week. And so that'll be great. All right. Thank you, Florence. Not taking nearly enough advantage of Alphana. It happens. Alphana can do too much. So my suggestion is, each day, come in, just try one new thing. You don't have to learn everything all at once. It's very powerful, or just be like, all right, I'm going to create one new template today and I'm going to make sure I use that every day or at least once a week, right? And every day you can introduce something new that you do, right, for something else. Perfect. And if anybody needs help or anything like that, please always reach out in the chat on our inside of our app. It starts off with our AI that tries to answer some questions. Hopefully it's useful for a lot of you. But anytime you say, I want to talk to a real person, 99% of the time, that's me. I will hop on. I will help answer or help you with anything that you need. So please, take advantage of it. Get any questions or any help that you need from it. And if you need to talk to me directly or get support from a human, we're always there. It's just one tap of a button. We'll never leave you hanging. Awesome. Yes. Webhooks to be able to push out. Yeah. If there's an integration if they support webhooks, or if you use something like Zapier, you'll definitely be able to use something like that. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate all the love, everyone. I love you all, even though I don't know all of you yet. A lot more. If you're signed up already in the community, if you guys try something new, I'd love for you guys to post it. Like, for example, use cases. How are you using Alphana, or a screenshot of your template, or a prompt that you've used that you're getting good traction on? I think it's really important for the community and for all of us to just be able to see, like, how are you using it, or any ideas you have. Go ahead and drop it in the community, paste it in there. Or if you don't want people to see that it was you, if you want to shoot it to me and I can, share it anonymously, I'm happy to do that as well. So, show us what you're doing, what templates you're creating, what prompts you're using, what use cases you have. And maybe, next week or on some of the new sessions, we could feature you in our newsletter, and we could feature you here. So all up to you. Just let me know. So that's a wrap. Thank you, everyone, for joining our first ever Insider Live. We're doing this every week. Hopefully it got you a lot of tips, some tricks, some ways to personalize Alphana. I really want you guys to enjoy it. If you need anything at all, please reach out. I'll see you the next time. Bye, everyone.